Guest today. He spent time in front of and behind the camera helping create some of professional wrestling's greatest moments. Please welcome our guest, none other than Bruce Prichard. Bruce, thank you.
Hey, thank you guys for having me on, man. Look forward to it.
No problem. So tell us a little bit about, let's get right into it, because we have a few things to tell the fans about. You and Eric Bischoff are going to be having an autograph signing on the 24th in Queens, New York at the Wrestling Universe.
On the 25th? No, we're going to be 25th in Philadelphia.
Oh, Philadelphia. Yeah, we had that next. We thought we were doing a signing, too, but that's the big deal, right? The
wait a minute.
Debate.
Hey, you know what? We are doing a signing, so thank you for correcting me, correcting you.
Well, that's before the big debate.
I was all ready to cut you off, man, and you guys saved the day. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, well, just a little plug for the signing. But, yeah, more importantly, the great debate we're having between you and Eric Bischoff, moderated by Chris Jericho. Tell us a little bit about that and what maybe the fans can expect.
Well, this is something that I don't think has ever been done before. And the way this all came about was it's simply whenever Eric Bischoff and I get together and we sit down, we have a couple of adult beverages, and people start talking about, hey, you remember back in the day, you remember back in the wars when we did this and you did that, and everybody, you know, always has their own opinion and as to what happened and how it happened, if you will. And Eric and I were there. We were on different sides. So he'll answer one way, and I'll usually answer completely the opposite. Well, no, that's not the way it happened, because it happened differently from my point of view. Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily that either one's right or either one's wrong. It's just we saw everything going on from two completely diverse viewpoints. Mm-hmm. And it would, you know, we would have some healthy arguments, and it became informative, actually, for one another. You know, it was got to the point like, okay, why did you do this then? Or, oh, okay, well, when we did this and you did that, what was your thought process behind that? And we started to think, you know, wouldn't it be neat if people could ask us questions about those times to see what was the rationale behind some of the things that the WWF at the time did, and what was the rationale behind WCW when Eric did at the time. Damn, sounds pretty interesting. And we threw the idea out there, and seems to be some interest in it. So we're gonna give it a shot there in Philadelphia and see what comes out. I don't really know what to expect, but I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
Now we know obviously it's going to be you and Eric talking. Is there anything that you'd like to get out right now to Eric, so if he's listening, he can kind of get prepared? Is there anything that you really want to find out from him?
Well, you know, the unique thing about this is, and we hope to do more of these. Okay? This is our first one in Philadelphia on the 25th, and we hope to do more across the country. I'm not looking so much at it as to what I'm wanting to get out of it. I'm looking at it as what the audience wants to get out of it, because you had a lot of people watching both shows at the time. And there were a lot of what-ifs and there were a lot of whys that never truly got answered. So it's not necessarily what either Eric's looking to get out of it or I'm looking to get out of it. Hopefully we're going to be able to answer a lot of those questions that the audience has been wondering all these years that they never got an answer to. And that's what we're looking for. And the other thing about it is there's not really, we're not going to have a set agenda per se, other than kind of a debate formula with Chris Jericho being the moderator and trying to keep the boat in the water, so to speak. But we're looking for every show to be different. We're looking to kind of build off of whatever the audience interest is and kind of take it from there.
Definitely. And now, what are your thoughts too? I know you said about Chris Jericho briefly, but he just came in on this, and how do you think he's going to do as a moderator between both of you? You think we'll keep it neutral or what?
I think it's going to be great personally because I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Chris was on both sides of the war when both sides were doing great. So he was with WCW when WCW was overtaking the WWF. And then he was with the WWF when it was overtaking WCW. So Chris, in and of himself, has a very unique perspective. And add to that the simple fact that when we announced that we were going to do this show, Jericho called us, wanting to be a part of it,
wow,
and asking how he could help and if there's anything he could do. And when we said, "Yeah, man, let's put it on your show. Let's help us get it out there." And in doing so, Chris was like, "God, yeah, I'm going to be in Philadelphia. I'd love to be a part of this." And I kind of took him up on that.
There you go.
And we would love to have you, man. So come on down. And he agreed to do it, which his level of enthusiasm and just sheer desire to be a part of it is what blew me away, man. I loved it. So that in and of itself was pretty neat. So he's coming prepared. He's coming loaded for bear. And we'll see what happens.
All right.
Now, it sounds like a great event. For those of you who are wondering how you can find out more about this, you can go on rfvideo.com. And I know that it's not going to be recorded, so if you are in the area, you need to be there in person because that's the only way you're really going to find out about this event.
Yeah, and again, it's all going to be with audience participation. You've got a question you want to ask, come and ask him, man. We're not going to duck anything.
All right. Now, we're going to come back to that here in a little bit. We're just going to talk to you about a few things. But now, you grew up in Texas, which was obviously like a huge hotbed for professional wrestling. What were your earliest memories of professional wrestling?
My earliest memories were of the Funk Brothers out of Amarillo because I lived in El Paso at the time. I was born in El Paso and saw the Amarillo television, which was the Funks, Dory and Terry Funk. So my early influence were the Funks, Ricky Romero, Harley Race, the Infernos, Jay Sykes and the Infernos, guys like that, names that, probably a lot of you viewers are going, huh? Who? But those were the first guys that I remember. And then we moved to Houston, where Paul Bosch was the promoter, and it became Wahoo McDaniel, Johnny Valentine, Jose Lothario, and guys like that. So those were the early formative years, late 60s, early 70s.
Sure. Now, did you ever have like a plan B once you started working in the wrestling business, or do you guys ever think about that when you start working in wrestling?
What do you mean by a plan?
I mean,
I didn't have a plan A, but
maybe like, hey, if I'll try this wrestling thing out, if it doesn't work, I'm definitely going to go do this later on. Maybe, I don't know.
I think if you were to ask anyone that's known me when I was a kid, I had a one-track mind. I was going to be in wrestling come hell or high water. There was nothing that was going to stop me. And I never had a plan B.
Right.
It was, I worked for it. I worked towards it. And every opportunity that I had, I exploited to the nth degree just to be able to be in the wrestling business. I loved it. As a kid, I loved it. I love it now. And it was just a true passion. So, unfortunately, in some ways, I kind of wish I had a plan B sometimes, but I don't know that I would have been able to do the things that I did if I thought I had a backup or if I thought I'll just go on and do something else. Mm-hmm. Only having that plan A and working towards it, that drive was there to succeed no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Now, did your brother, Tom Prichard, wrestled actually. When you both kind of got into the business, he was a little bit older than you, but did you ever wish that you were actually wrestling, or were you happy doing all the other stuff you got to do?
No, I always wanted to be a wrestler. I had, Tom, man, Tom's a stud. And Tom was natural, and I know I'm a little prejudiced here, man, but Tom was excellent. And a great, great worker, great talent. I didn't have that gift. And I would have loved to have wrestled. If you want to call mine a gift, I landed in the office. I had bad knees and landed in the office, and Paul Bosch, the promoter here in Houston, told me from the time I was like 16 years old, you want to be on this side. And that was the side that I chose. And I never got out. I loved it because by being able to be in the office and later on being able to be a part of the creative process, you get to be everybody. You don't just have, you're not just playing one character. You're not just you're worrying about your own thing. You get to worry about everybody and everything. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot more fun.
All right. Now, growing up, were there some guys that you idolized, watching it as a young fan?
Oh, the Funks and Briscoes, yeah. They just were. I don't know if there were any better. To watch a guy like Jack Briscoe in the ring was magic to me. Same thing with Dory. He and Dory could do more in an hour without doing anything than anybody had ever seen in my life. Nowadays, if you were to go back and watch some of those matches, some of these kids would look at it and say, well, they're not doing anything. And not understand the psychology and what was put into that particular match, and then how every single thing that they did in the ring meant something. Everything they did was another chapter in the story. Mm-hmm. And it drew you in. It just, watching the Briscoes, man, watching the Funks, Johnny Valentine, unbelievable. Wanda McDaniel, they beat the hell out of each other. And it was just exciting as a kid to be able to engulf, and just be a part of that. It was great.
Now, we're going to skip forward a little bit, but you were eventually brought into the WWF at the time, WWE now. What were your initial thoughts of Vince McMahon and the WWE when you were brought up there?
Well, from where I came from in Houston and working with Bill Watts in the Mid-South and so many guys that had come through, there was such a prejudice, if you will, towards those damn Yankees up in the Northeast and that evil Vince McMahon. That for all I knew, before I went in there, that Vince spit fire and and was this just horrible human being. And then you meet him and you're around him, and all of the things that I had heard, I kept waiting for the shoe to drop. And it never did. He was really good to me. He gave me opportunities that I'm not sure that a lot of people ever would have given a kid my age at the time. And I can't say enough good things about him. I mean, it was a great ride. It really was. It was a hell of a run.
Sure.
But he didn't live up to that negative stereotype and negative picture that had been drawn for me for so many years. And there was a part of me that was terrified to go up north because, again, all the rumors that you hear and you got up there and was a bunch of people doing business and working together to make the best product that they possibly could.
All right, now, your persona, Brother Love, was pretty controversial at the time. Were you or WWE ever contacted by any evangelists during your run as Brother Love?
No, not any evangelists. There were quite a few people that didn't particularly care for the character, felt that it was blasphemous. Mm-hmm. Well, I am tongue-tied. I've been doing these all day, and they felt that I was making fun of religion. But if you go back and you really examine what Brother Love did, what he said, I never touched on religion. I didn't go there. But I went all around it, I guess. If you chose to, when people really examine deep down inside what they think of organized religion and what they think of these preachers that get on TV, and they do everything but religion, but they can think of 100 different ways in 10 minutes to ask you to send money in. And I just would sit there and I would analyze these guys, and the sheer hatred that that I had for them helped develop this character. And it was so easy because all you had to do was just be a phony.
Okay, now Brother Love was so hot at the time that he landed you on the January 1989 cover of WWE Magazine. Was that a surprise to you?
I think it holds the record for the least amount of magazines ever sold. A part of me was surprised, but also at the same time, it was what was happening, and the character was hot, and they didn't often put heels on the cover of the magazine, and it was to be something different. So, it was a huge honor for me. Hell, I got a hell of a kick out of it. I've got the magazine framed up on my wall here somewhere.
Now, years later, obviously, you would be immortalized with your very own action figure. Which one of those felt like a bigger accomplishment for you?
Action figure.
Awesome.
I just that just tickled me to death. I thought that was cool. It's kind of one of those things that you look at and go, hey, wow, man, I got an action figure. That's also on my wall too. So hey, go figure.
Now, I
thought that was cool.
Yeah,
but you know what though? hang on, I'm going to actually backtrack here just a little bit.
Sure.
I was in Hong Kong in 1990, I guess, and seeing myself on the magazine rack in Hong Kong in a WWF magazine, that was a kick too. That was just being able to walk down the street and go, hey, wait a minute, that's me. That was pretty cool. But okay, back to your original question. Yeah, the action figure.
Now, other than your on-screen role for the WWF, were there any other duties that you had working with them?
I did it all, soup to nuts. When I was Brother Love, I also was producing television shows and working behind the scenes, helping out in any and every which way there was. If there was something to be done, I did it, and loved doing it. It's like I said, I love every aspect of it, and to be able to be behind the scenes as well as in front of the camera, I had the best of both worlds.
Now, you spent 22 years working for the WWE, and a lot of that time you spent doing things creatively, working with creative, and sometimes you get maybe saddled with the responsibility of bad gimmicks or bad characters or whatever, but were there anything that you pitched that you really got behind that you wanted to create, either a character or a gimmick, that just never happened? Like, is there another? Is there like another clown out there somewhere, or another Man Mountain Rock that we don't know about?
God, I hope there's not another Man Mountain Rock. No, it was. You have to try things to see if they're going to work or not. Yeah, who knew on a lot of characters. And some things that you thought were going to be a huge hit, it just didn't work. That's a tough one. I don't think I've ever been asked that before. Sometimes there were things that we wanted to do in portraying a character or bringing a character out that we didn't always get to realize, and sometimes things were cut short before. I'm of the old school that I like to see things develop some kind of slowly and logically, and it was frustrating sometimes when we would rush things because it wasn't hitting at that exact minute, and it's like, well, we got to do this, and we got to do this, we got to do this quick. And there were probably a few of those, but to have any particular, I can't really think of one right off the top of my head that I'd say, oh, well, we wanted to do this, and it didn't work. There's a lot of stuff that didn't work. But I don't really know off the top of my head.
Okay.
Now, you were with the WWE during some of its most infamous moments, including the Montreal Screwjob, the Attitude Era, and the Monday Night Wars. Out of those three, do you think is it the most important? Which one do you think is the most important in the world of pro wrestling? I would say
the Monday Night Wars, which led into the Attitude Era, because it changed the industry in so many ways. It put an emphasis on live television. It put an emphasis on the arena concept and really putting your best product out there live and having that unpredictable aspect of it. So without a doubt, I would say that the war, if you want to call that, was probably the turning point.
Okay, now you obviously are aware that the WWE Network just put out a series called the Monday Night War, which basically goes through the entire ratings war between WCW and WWE. How much did your job change during that time frame versus the rest of the time you were there? I know that there was, like in the early 90s, it was kind of slower than obviously what it was during that time. So was it just insane backstage? What was the feeling like back then?
Well, when we finally went live every week, the atmosphere is a lot more electric. I love live television because anything can happen, and we had a philosophy that if anything went wrong, it was supposed to go wrong. It was supposed to happen because we're live. You can't screw up live television. No matter what happens, it was supposed to happen. So that's what I loved about that time, because you just were out there. You were out there without a net. It wasn't, if somebody screwed up or something didn't work, well, we can fix it in post. There was no post. You were out there live. You deliver or you get out. And it had an effect on the talent too, because I think that they performed better when they were live and under the gun. So it's the whole atmosphere, the whole attitude, which is where the Attitude Era came from. It changed. It just became a little bit more frenetic.
Now, the Brother Love Show, which was probably one of the most memorable talk show style segments in wrestling history, other than your own segments, was there any ones that were, any of your favorite that you had on your show? Any guests or any times that were, very memorable for you?
The first time that I had Hulk Hogan on, and again, those were the glory days when there's nobody hotter than Hogan. And we were doing something just to see if there was any chemistry there. Mm-hmm. And we did a little segment in the ring at a TV, and it was, I remember just having goosebumps from head to toe, because it was just so electric and magical. So Hulk was always a favorite. Jake, please. I could go 2 hours with Jake talking. Love Jake. Let's see, Hogan. There's a lot of them, but those are the kind of guys that stick out. Anybody that could battle verbally back and forth, I loved. Mm-hmm. Absolutely loved it. And when Piper, can't leave Roddy out, because I stole so much from him that I loved working with him, and I loved the fact that we would talk about nothing. So we knew what we needed to do, we knew what we needed to get over, and we just went out and did it. I never knew what was coming out of his mouth. For real. I never knew what was going to come out of his mouth. And him, me. So we worked off of that, and I think he enjoyed it. I know I did, because it was just that unpredictability that he thrived on. So yeah, Piper was great too.
You also had a pretty mean Piper impersonation, if I remember correctly, too.
Yeah, he didn't like that. Yeah.
Now, one of my favorite brother love moments of all time was in 2001, and I'm pretty sure you know where I'm going with this. WrestleMania 17, the gimmick battle royal. How did you get involved with that?
Boy, you got me. That's kind of one of those I might have left the room to go to the bathroom, and I'm not kidding about this either. And came back and looked at the names on the gimmick battle royal. You know, what the hell is he doing in there? And I just thought everybody was kidding at first, and before I knew it, it was here. And that was, I mean, you talk about a thrill to be in WrestleMania in your hometown. 70,000 plus people setting the record in the Astrodome. Yeah, that was a little kick in the ass. That was great. Yeah, that's one of those high points.
All right. Now, as we said earlier, you were with the WWE for a long time, but after leaving the WWE, you went to work for Dixie Carter and TNA. What did you expect when you got there, and were your expectations met, or did they fall flat?
I didn't expect anything. I didn't. When I left WWE, I didn't watch anything for almost a year, a little over a year, and I started watching back again, and I watched both products, and I didn't know a lot of the guys either. It was a young group, and I knew obviously Hogan and Bischoff and those guys, but I didn't know a lot of their homegrown talent, and it just went in with an open mind, and there's a lot of good young talent there. But it was a completely different environment than what I'd been used to. It was just it was a different business, a whole different game.
Mm-hmm. Now, you like you mentioned, you worked with some pretty infamous names, Hogan, Bischoff. You also worked with Vince Russo. Now, obviously, I don't know him personally or even at all, but he gets a lot of people's blood pumping. Did you get along with Vince, or is he somebody that you don't get along with either?
No, I always got along with Vince. I didn't have a problem with Vince. You know, he's opinionated. He's got his own ideas about the way he thinks things should be, but so am I. So, you know, we got along on that level because I let him have his opinions and he let me have my opinions. And we met somewhere in the middle. But it's everybody that you meet in this business, they're all going to be, hopefully, to come out with the best product. You don't want 10 people sitting around a table that all have the exact same ideas and the exact same way of doing things. Because then you don't need 9 of them. So when you have people with completely different viewpoints and completely different ideas, it makes people think and it makes you defend your ideas that much more. And it makes you, by doing that, it makes you see if they make sense or not. Because now you got to convince somebody. And if you can convince them and win them over, then maybe you're going to be able to convince an audience and get an audience interested in what you want to portray. Mm-hmm. But, you know, Vince, smart guy, and, you know, he does his thing. I think that Vince enjoys that polarity that he has and wants to play that up as being the swerve king and all that. I was usually the guy that wanted to stay in the background, and I didn't want anybody to come and know who I was, so to speak. And I know that sounds crazy coming from me and with the characters I portrayed, but the reality was I could literally walk into an arena back in the day without my Brother Love makeup on, and no one knew who I was. I could perform, walk out of that same arena, and no one knew who I was. Mm-hmm. So I like the anonymity of that character. But back to Russo, you know, I mean, he was a guy that had different ideas that got Vince McMahon's ear, and was able to parlay that into what it was, and into some really good television at the time.
Sure. Now, we mentioned the Monday Night Wars earlier. We just talked about Vince Russo also. Now, Vince Russo has taken more than his fair share of credit over the years for creating stuff that happened in the Attitude Era. And, going back to your great debate coming up on January 25th with Eric Bischoff and Chris Jericho, have you ever, spoken to Vince about, some of the stuff that's happened in the Attitude Era? The stuff going on backstage, he's, like I said, he's taken a lot of credit for a lot of stuff that's happened. Would you agree with a lot of the things that happened were his ideas, or are they pretty much, a collection of sorts?
The bottom line is, and everybody that I've talked to lately, they've all had the same question. It's a simple, very simple fact. There's one guy in the WWE who makes the decision, who's going to make the final decisions. And everything goes through him. So his last name is McMahon.
The other Vince, yeah.
So, yeah. So whatever ideas, it can go from George Scott in the early '80s to Pat Patterson to me and Pat to Vince Russo to Brian Gewirtz to Michael Hayes to everybody else. Okay, we all had great ideas. We all had some pretty bad ideas too. But Vince McMahon would take those ideas, and filter them, and he's the one that made the decision what was going to be on and how it was going to be portrayed and how it was going to be presented. So again, I guess if you're in that role and you want to take credit, you can to an extent. But the fact of the matter is that none of it would have gotten on the air had Vince McMahon not been behind it, supported it, and tweaked it. That's what he does. That's what he does to this day. So it's, it's pretty much that simple.
Now, obviously, you're known for WWE and your stay in TNA. Would you be willing to go back to work for any of them or work for a different wrestling company today?
Sure.
Is there now with the advent of the internet and all this stuff, there's a lot of more gritty company. There's Lucha Underground. There's a lot of independent promotions that are actually starting to get TV time and stuff. Ring of Honor to name one. Is there one that you've had your eye on before that you thought you'd like to try your hand at, or?
Well, currently I'm working with the Reality of Wrestling here in Houston, which is Booker T's organization. Mm-hmm. And he's got a school here in town. He's got just a whole roster of great kids that are going through his school. But he just recorded his 50th television show on Saturday night. And I've been working with him, and I've been working with him with the kids at school and at TV and everything. And I've never seen a better, from bottom to top, group, independent group, if you will, than what he's got. And he's got some very promising talent there. And it's just so, for me, as I left Saturday night, I just thanked him for allowing me to be a part of it, because it's young talent that want to be in the business, that want to learn, that come in without a preconceived idea of what they think it should be, and get to work with them and just see what happens on the other side. I'm having a blast. But it's some good, hungry young talent. He's got some guys, Pro Wrestling Society, I believe that's what it's called, up in Jersey. A couple guys that have come down from there, Mario Baccara and Fala, that are unbelievable talents. They're going to be, you give them a few years, and they're going to be in the show. Booker just introduced 2 new talents on Saturday night. Again, he's got a couple kids out there that are 19, 20 years old. A couple years, they're going to be in the show. So that's exciting to me. I just love that aspect of the business, and seeing these guys when they're first coming up, and is Grill Monsoon, you say they don't know shit from Shinola, and watch them develop the stars.
All right, now on Twitter, we've seen that you've teased that there may be a book in the works. Is there anything maybe you could tell us about this or the upcoming project, maybe?
Man, I had been writing a book for a while, and I get to these points where I just stop writing, and I go back and I read, and then I start tweaking, and I have to learn to leave it alone, I guess, because I end up tweaking more, and I feel like I just get further and further behind. But the concept behind it, the idea behind it, is simply to tell stories, and it's a feel-good book. It's not a tell-all. It's not a, I was born 1963. It's not that. It's little stories like talking about Paul Bosch finding religion, and how these little episodes and stories. Okay, give you an example. It's Paul Bosch found religion, was born again Christian, invited me to hear his testimony. Let me give you the Reader's Digest version. And we go out to this Baptist church in Sugar Land, Texas, and Paul gives his testimony, and it's emotional, and he's talking about everything that he was doing in World War II and ducking bullets and this, that, and the other thing. And at the end of the deal, they ask everybody to come down, and the preacher gets up, the minister of the church gets up, and he tells a story about how he was on a hunting trip with 6 other ministers, and they were up in the mountains, and they were on this road, and they came upon a sheep that had stepped in a hole and broken its ankle. And the rest of the flock left the sheep on the side of the road to die because he couldn't continue. He couldn't roam with the flock. He was unable to. He had a broken ankle. But the Lord Jesus Christ, he will not leave you on the side of the road with a broken ankle. He will pick you up and keep you with his flock no matter what. And so they're telling this story and everything. And the next day, Paul comes into the office and he sits down across from my desk and at the end of the day and asks me, he says, "So, what'd you think of the presentation last night?" I said, "Well, it was interesting." So, "Well, did you learn anything?" I said, "Well, I have a question." And he gets really excited, and he's like, because he thinks, okay, Bruce is kind of getting into this. This is good. He's got a question about what went on. Maybe I can help him and bring him to the other side. And I said, "Well, when that minister was telling the story about, deer hunting and the sheep on the side of the road and the broken ankle and the flock and all that?" Yes. So, the question is, where was God? Why wasn't he looking out after that poor little sheep on the side of the road and those deer that these guys were pointing guns at? And he just gave me this disgusted look and got up and walked out. So, and it's just kind of a collection of different, things that have, anecdotes, if you will, that have happened to me throughout the many years in this business. It was different. You meet a lot of different personalities, and so just kind of a collection of short stories like that.
All right. Well, we hope that if you get this going, and you can definitely come back on the show and let us know a little more about it. Lightning round. What is your favorite bad gimmick of all time?
Bastion Booger.
Do you have a favorite mini Vince McMahon story that nobody probably knows about, or I don't know?
A mini Vince McMahon story?
Not like a miniature Vince McMahon, but a short Vince McMahon story.
Wow, I've got lots of those. Wow.
Or any funny moment?
Well, okay, real quick.
Okay.
The first time Vince fired me, there was we were in Mid-South Wrestling, and Ernie Ladd was the booker, and Ernie Ladd was explaining to Bill Watts why Vince was so successful. He's like, "Bill, you look at him, and he's got Nikolai Volkov, he got the iron cheek. They're real, Bill. That's what Vince McMahon's doing. The man is a genius. Vince McMahon is a genius. He knows what he's doing." So I'm telling Vince this story. that and so like we'd always something would happen, and the man is a genius. And so he calls me in to the office to let me go the first time, and he's sitting there with the other guy across the way, and he says, "Bruce, oh, I'm sorry, I left out the most important part." He goes, Vince McMahon is a genius. He fired my ass. That man is a genius." And I always laugh because Ernie was talking about the man's a genius because he fired his ass. So Vince brings me. See how I screwed that up? You guys rushed it.
What do you think you will be remembered most for in the world of wrestling?
Probably Brother Love.
Okay.
I think it was the most out there and most visible.
Who do you think's the best talker in wrestling today?
Today?
Yeah, today. Anybody come to mind?
Because I love Bray Wyatt. Heyman is excellent. Bray Wyatt, I just am mesmerized. I think he's tremendous. Hell of a future.
Okay, and it can be today, it can be of all time, whatever. Who is your favorite wrestler?
My favorite is probably The Undertaker.
Okay.
Just because I love the gimmick, love the work.
Lightning round.
And now the big news today, thoughts on the Macho Man finally getting inducted into the Hall of Fame?
About time. It is about time. Yeah. Yeah, he's deservedly so. I'm glad he's finally going in.
Now,
just wish they'd done it before, he passed.
Absolutely. Now, other than coming to see you Royal Rumble weekend in Queens for the signing and at Philadelphia for the debate, where can fans keep up with you today? Do you have? I know you're on Twitter, right?
Mainly my Twitter and my Facebook,
okay.
But I don't do a whole lot on Facebook just because I just kind of like less than however many words I'm allowed on Facebook. So I can get in and get out. I mean, on Twitter. So I mean, Twitter's the way to go. Bruce Prichard at Twitter. Or whatever the hell. You know how to get there.
Yes, we got it.
I'm an old fart. I just have it.
Well, Bruce, we really appreciate your time and for joining us today. We thank you.
Guys, thank you very much, man. I had fun and greatly appreciate you putting me on. And hope everybody comes out to the signing in Queens and comes on out to Philadelphia. You guys going to be there?
We're going to actually be up here because we're a few hours away, but we got some Royal Rumble stuff going on.
We got planes and cars,
I know. But thank you so much, though. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. I greatly appreciate it as well.